Control Shift cybersecurity session for the dreamers and the doers. Again, my name is Neferteri, and I'll be your pilot for Top Flight Security. I want to thank Carmen, Black Girl Ventures. That's how we know each other. She hit me up last minute and was like, "Can you do this session?" I said, I'd be honored to. So I want to say thank you to the team at Elevators on 4th and the sponsors of this session, Urban Impact Inc., Wells Fargo, and B Birmingham. Stand up. So information that is high level, a lot of words on the slide. I really just want you to take away from this that information security is the larger scope or domain. A subset of information security is cybersecurity, and a subset of cybersecurity is network security. If you take away nothing else today, I want you to take away that your data is valuable. So our agenda, I think I went over the slide, but we'll look at it again. You can read it yourself. I won't read it out to you. This is what we expect to cover. And I'm scrolling past to the CIA triad is what we call this. So kind of like 3 domains within cybersecurity: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And you want to have a balance in these 3 areas. Think of confidentiality as being able to keep your information or transmission secret from anyone that's not authorized, concealing it. Integrity is the information accurate? Has it been altered by someone? And then availability, can you access it when you need to access it? Things like firewalls, things like blacklisting, where you can't get to Facebook from your job, or you can't get to certain websites from school. Those are constraints on availability. So you don't want to make any one of the 3 areas too restrictive. You want to have a nice balance, and what you'll have is users that are happy to use your network, to use your app, to use your system. So bring your own device. Instead of having one set of rules and policies that govern our networks, now we're starting to see just kind of a mix, and most of it, at least I contribute to this bring your own device culture that we have, where you have an Android and I have an iPhone, and I'm using a Surface Pro and you're using a Mac, and everyone's system will have different controls or different restrictions and different security applications enabled, which can put the overall network in a position to be compromised. If I've done everything possible to make it easy for me to use assets on the network, I may disable everything, which may let a malicious user onto the network and make them or put them in a position to gain access to you and your resources and your information. In the chat, does that make sense? Do we need any other clarification on that? All right. So moving on to data privacy. Information or data privacy is a relationship between the collection and dissemination of data, as well as data technology. And the public has an expectation of privacy, right? So there are legal ramifications, there are policies that go in tandem with things like the law, police officers being able to gain access to your data. We want to make sure that your data is protected and that you understand the value of your data. So in the chat, again, if you would for me, what is the most valuable thing that you own, that you physically own? Car, house, my dogs. That sounds emotional right there. So what is the most valuable piece of information that you own? Personal identity. What are some of the components of your identity? Social security number. Absolutely. In the chat, the data breaches, right? So your date of birth, your social security number. Each one of those data points that you all are putting in the chat create just a small bit of a greater picture that is you, my full government name. I agree. I agree. That over a period of time, you're giving a piece here, a piece there. And if someone wanted to gain access to your identity, like Lindsay said, all they have to do is put the pieces of the puzzle together. So how much is your first or how much is your full government name worth? Is it worth $1? Yes or no in the chat. Is it worth $1? Yes? So if you do that, you've just totally like given $1 away, right? First and last name, Lindsay, I got you. $2 bill. Your date of birth, is it worth, well, $2 bills don't even exist, right? So like $5 bill. Your birthday, is it worth $5? Yes. Is it worth $5? It's worth $5, right? So you're giving this, oh, worth more? How much more? You see what I'm doing here? How much more, Lindsay? Ne- Lindsay said, never mind. So how much is your social worth? All the digits. Don't rip all your money. Don't give away all your data. That's the point. That's the point, right? All right. So I was going to go through this exercise with you. I was going to see how far you were going to take me. But, hey, fire for effect, right? So your data, how much is it worth, right? I think that anything that we place a value on traditionally is how much the market will bear. How much your house is worth today could increase tomorrow based on a number of conditions. How much your house was worth 5 years ago was based on a certain standard or conditions. Your data is worth as much as gaining access to your resources, your car, your house, your bank account. That's how much your data is worth. So if you don't have anything, yeah, put everything out there, put everything on social media. If you have things, you do need to be aware of kind of all the little crumbs that you're dropping that someone may be coming behind you over a period of time collecting, right? Any questions? If you have any questions at any time, go ahead and put that in the chat, all right? So free 99. I know you've all heard of that, right? So apps and mobile applications. If you look at your phone right now, how many apps do you have on your phone? I know I have like 4 or 5 swipes worth of apps on my Apple. And I know more than 50. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? So I know that each one of those apps, especially the free ones, are designed to collect my data in exchange for some convenience, some capability. And on the slide, which if I look over to the side, I'm just looking at my second screen, they are making money off you to be able to advertise to you. To try to get you from that free model into some type of paid model, right? They give you a free period of time, so they kind of move you over to a subscription model. They want to sell things to you. They're the in-app purchases that sometimes your kids get a hold of, right? And you're like, I didn't order this. I didn't order this virtual, I don't know, hair bow that was $3 in Minecraft. It's like, what's going on here? Sponsorship, right? Your attention to a commercial is valuable. Referral marketing, the freemium upsell, that's basically what I was talking about. Physical purchases, collecting and selling little pieces of your data. We've been talking about this the whole time. Then there's transaction fees, right? So something costs $10, but they're closing, and so today it's $2.99 only, but then there's a transaction fee, right? And then crowdfunding. So what can you do with your phone, right? One of the biggest like culprits in the situation is the geo tagging. your pictures that you post on Facebook or Instagram, or that you even text to somebody, has little pieces of data embedded in the photo that give like grid coordinates, that will give that metadata to tell when and where you were, really. And then if there is any type of background visuals, they will determine if you're with other people, which, again, rolling up all the information paints a picture that if someone wanted to place you somewhere and say you did a thing or say you were involved in a thing, the whole subject is like a horror movie. Exactly. Right, get out. So what I want you to do is deactivate geolocation from your pictures. And then on the apps that have, GPS and whatnot, you want to set it to only when you have the app open. Exactly, Latasha, when in use. So I want you to check with your cell phone provider. I am not here representing anybody. I have a master's degree in cyber, some certifications. I'm a certified ethical hacker, all those things, but I am not speaking on behalf of anyone. I'm making recommendations. Got me? All right. So, do you know these logos? I have money, so I'm joking. Can you identify these logos? Put it in the chat. I can't hear you. Yes, yes. Can you put the names of the logos in the chat? White hat hacker. No, I'm gray all day. Twitter, Instagram, the gram, yeah, IG, Snapchat. Yep, you got them. So did you know that of children surveyed by the consortium of cybersecurity professionals, 30% of children lie about their age to get onto Facebook. The crazy thing is grandma, grandpa, and sometimes their parents help them fill out the virtual user agreement or digital user agreement so they can get an account. So if your kid is under the age of, I think it's like 13 or 14, I believe, and they have an account and you help them, you fall into this 30% of liars, basically. And all that data that you're providing to the social networks, they're stored. And sometimes they never go away. There are legislations that are moving through our US government. One just was passed in California that is very similar to what they use in Europe, so you can control your data. But for now, Facebook owns you, and YouTube, and I think they own WhatsApp. What else does Facebook own? Anything that you're on that Facebook owns is giving them data. Long story short. So, of the students surveyed, 10% admitted they were late to school because they were online the night before. That sound reasonable? I think it does. I have a 17-year-old, and 5% said they missed school because they were too tired from being online late. 90% have their phone or tablet or computer in their room, sometimes all night. 30% of children surveyed between the ages of 8 and 14 use the internet in a way they know their parents would not approve. Crazy, right? So I know you all said you were familiar with those 4 social media platforms. And you also know that that information stays on servers, distributed. It's not just like on one computer or server somewhere. It's replicated. Just in case that one server goes down, you can still have that availability of the triad, right? You can still get to your account. So it's spread out everywhere, all across the globe. So if you travel and you decide you want to go to Italy for the summer, you can access your Facebook account. It's on a server that's closer to where you are when you're stateside. So what do we want to do to keep kids safe? We want to, unfortunately, exercise our adulthood and regulate the times that they're using the systems, especially at night. We want to prevent them from using private mode. We want to prevent them from erasing things that we can go and check up and make sure that they're not doing anything crazy. Carmen says, if I show this to my parents, they're going to start snatching plugs out of the wall. My nieces and nephew. Yeah, but it's real. And there's a real danger. Like, I know I'm going to show my age here, stranger danger, right? Don't take candy from strangers. They'll throw you in the back of their van and we'll never see you again. Find your bloody body in a ditch. That's how they scared us, right? And some of us, we got scared straight. Some of us didn't make it. But if children must use a computer in the bedroom, make sure that they're using the computer where if you walk by, you can see if something crazy is going on. Keep devices in a central location, and then set up central charging stations, because when they need to charge it, everybody has to bring everything out at night, and that encourages them to kind of take a break from it. So you want to avoid kids in chat rooms that are unmonitored by adults. Why? Because an adult can present themselves as though they're like a sixth grade girl and start chatting with your sixth grade daughter, which is not what you want. So it's important to make sure you talk to these kids about positive ways to use technology. So Carmen, from a very young age, we have to teach these kids about safety. How do you search? Where do you search? What games are you playing? How do you download music and movies? These are all really important things, because we get back to the data again, where 21% of children visited chat rooms where they can talk to strangers. 25% of those children gave a stranger their phone number. 1 out of 5 actually spoke with a stranger. 1 out of 10 met a stranger in person. There's a TV show about this. It's something crazy where like they have cameras and they stake out at the house, and then some strange man comes to meet a teenage girl, and then the cameraman pops out. Put it in the chat. What's the name of that show? Nobody knows. Bueller? Yes, To Catch a Predator. And it's like watching Cops or Faces of Death, and you're like, this is crazy, but you keep watching it. But it happens. And To Catch a Predator wasn't stage. It wasn't actors. It was real people and real children. So moving away from what we can do specifically for the children and broaden that scope to what you can do for your household. Before I move on, do you have any questions? Do you have any concerns or thoughts? Go ahead and put that in the chat. I'm going to give it a minute. Sip some tea. Wait. Going once? All right, so we'll move on. 21st century stranger danger, or stranger danger 2.0. There's like 5 threats, and one of them kind of overlaps with one of the first 4. 3 of the 5 can be taken care of with things like virtual private networks or antivirus. So we have worms, viruses, Trojan horses. Phishing and social engineering. As I stated to you before, I consider my area of expertise social engineering. And Carmen will tell you, like, I'm a pretty friendly person. I extract information from people pretty well. I analyze data pretty well, and I can make pretty accurate assumptions, which then I give recommendations to people that pay me, courses of actions of how to take cyber-related actions. So as a cybersecurity strategist, I basically look at a scenario and give a recommendation just based on years of experience. So social engineering is that domain that I live in. Would I put a worm on your network? No, not if I can call and say, oh, I worked there before, and I just wanted to see if Susan is still working there. I just wanted to stop by and give her a birthday card. Her birthday is coming up, right? So I don't have to go through the expense of, one, learning how to do a lot of things that are technical and maybe code related, if I can tap into the human being, because chances are the human being can open the closet for me to get in. They can open the door for me to get in. They can provide me with information about when people are going to be at work, if there's a shift change. It's creepy. It's real, though. It's creepy. It's real. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking at is, where is the value? And where did I tell you the value is? In the chat. Where's the value? Values you. That's where the value is, because you may have access to information or physical resources that ordinarily it would take me a lot of money to gain access to, or the right credentials to gain access to. And if I can use these tools, whether they be worms, viruses, Trojan horses, or some other malicious code based, then I'll do that. But if I can just send you an email and get you to click on a link because we're giving away $10 grants to people of color, right? Then I'll do that. And it might not even be that I'm going to, the payload is like what is the code that actions the malicious kind of follow-on activity. So it's not even necessarily that there's a payload associated with that email that we call phishing attacks. It could just be that I want you to give me your first and last name, your mailing address, the name of your business, how many employees you have, how much revenue you made last year, because we're collecting these databases of information. And I see this happening right now, and I find it a little concerning, but that's just because I truly am a believer that your data is the most valuable thing that you have in 2020 going on to 2021. So Latasha said, I'm going to tell folks, don't tell me nothing. you know, you know? And that mask, though, that mask, anonymous, I don't exist. That's what that is, Latasha. So we were talking about VPNs, virtual private networks. It's in a nutshell, it's a form of encryption. Like you can't see into my communication channel. They do get complex. They can be rather simplistic, and those ones that are simplistic can be broken or cracked a lot more easily than the ones that are more sophisticated. And sophistication, sometimes the cost is an indicator of sophistication, but not always. Flashy, pretty, the right font, the right color, or the right testimonial will get people to purchase a product. So do your research, right? Nothing is foolproof. So instead of just using a VPN, I would say use VPN, but also use an antivirus, which to make it really simple, there's a set of existing code-based vulnerabilities or threats that will give a bad person, a malicious user, access to your system. So we keep a library of those things, and then we check your system. We run the software and check that against your system to see if any of those things pop up. So Latasha in the chat said, I heard Mac. I'm not going to say Mac, the name of the company, but you all can read it. So a company that everybody knows supposedly is selling people's information. The agreement that you check the box that's legally binding allows companies to do those type of things legally. Now, if they were selling it illegally, if they made $1 million off your data and got fined $500,000, right? They're making bank. And unfortunately, those value propositions and returns on investment, risk versus reward are all the things that they put into an equation. And their accounting people and their lawyers take close looks at that to see what their risk appetite is in this space, because it really still is like the Wild West in terms of cyber and networked systems, and even people that aren't considered tech or in STEM fields or in IT, just like all of us on this call right now, are using a software platform. We are communicating using a VPN or not, right? But the remote work, the remote school, all of it, we're all living in that cyber landscape. And in some cases, it's going to look very similar to a cyber battlefield. So you have to get your armor, right? You have to get your tribe or your army. And there should really be people in your community that are practitioners. Someone said white hat in the chat, that are white hat, that are gray hat. When you start to look at the legalities of it, you don't want anybody that's a black hat, but you want somebody that can red team, is what we call it. So the good guys are the blue team, and the red team are the good guys playing the bad team. And training, I hear my dog. He's a stalker. That's the cyber world again that we're living in. So if you see a Shih Tzu, I'll keep going with the presentation. So yeah, you want people in your community, especially young people, to start to get involved in this space, K-12 education, STEM, and cybersecurity. So Carmen, if you're not pushing for that, I need you to start pushing for that. All right. So moving on to the next slide. We talked about VPNs and antiviruses, and that takes care of the, I see you, Carmen. That takes care of the worm, the virus, and the Trojan horse. So the phishing, we talked about that. We talked about phishing attacks being transmitted over email, essentially. And so the social engineer, right, the social engineer is going to look for the chinks in the armor. It could be a receptionist. It could be your maintenance staff. It could be you, right? And the only way in my mind that you as a leader, you as a business person, you as a head of household can protect you and your family or your business against this is through training. So make sure that when Carmen rallies the troops, that you all attend the training, that you all start to work with each other just to create a heightened level of awareness of your community, both physical and your virtual community, and then the footprint of the community. So social engineering that we've been discussing, it's a broad sense, is a person who uses a broad range of malicious activities through human interactions. He or she uses psychological manipulation to trick users into making security mistakes or giving away sensitive information. What does that look like? This is phishing. A fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information or data such as usernames, passwords, credit card details. We do all that by disguising ourselves as a trustworthy entity in an electronic communication. So take a look at that flow. Reconnaissance is just like, all right, between Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere I can find you, LinkedIn, I can find where you work, where you live, where you went to college, all of those things, right? So I'm an alum too, right? I'm an HBCU alumni, Savannah State University, right? 05. I can find in the bad guys, I don't consider myself a bad guy, but the bad guys and bad girls can find those kind of triggers that get you perked up, that get you excited, that open you, right? That open you up to communicating, that open you up to having a conversation. And that's not to say that you shouldn't converse. That's not to say you shouldn't have conversations with people. So don't do that. We'll just talk about what we can do to protect ourselves, right? So the user receives an email with a PDF file, right? Opens it, and the payload, right? It executes the malware. Malware is pre-programmed and designed to steal your credentials and sensitive data. And then now that the bad girl has your data or your information, now it becomes a commodity. It becomes something that can be bought and sold and traded on the black market. So whereas, your social security number, right, it might be worth this. If I have a spreadsheet full of social security numbers, I can sell it for $20, but I can sell it 100 times, right? And I never have to work if I do these types of things. And like any criminal or any crime, over time, it's kind of like, well, they should do a better job of protecting themselves, or I have all these obligations. So this is just a risk reward kind of balance that I'm willing to take. And to a certain degree, malicious cyber activity it's been made to appear sexy. And I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't been brought into minority communities more. Like, I look at cybersecurity and the 5 elements of hip hop having such synergy. It's crazy, but we're still kind of, white guys in hoodies. So it's time to move on, and not just people operating in this space, but being technically proficient and innovative in this space, and being able to protect themselves, their families, and their communities, because these types of attacks are happening right under people's noses. And unless you traverse the dark web, unless you go on the dark web, you don't know that people are buying, selling, and trading. The only time you're made aware of that is when it hits the news, right? So we're naturally vulnerable. Attackers use social engineering techniques because it's usually the cheapest. We talked about this, right? So they use your trust, they use your willingness to help others, and they use your carelessness. Phishing emails, physical breaches, and pretext calling. Remember, I'm going to call you up and I want to drop some flowers off or send some edible arrangement for somebody's birthday, right? So tips to avoid social engineering attacks. I want you to be cautious when sharing your personal information. I'm a pretty open person because I'm like, I have, but I also have something if you come to my door, and I ensure that the banks insure FDIC everything that I have. So although I, like most other people, are vulnerable, I've taken precautions to make myself whole again, because I do a lot of things in the public space. And because I work in cybersecurity, I might become a target because somebody's like, oh, we're going to get her, right? So I want you to never open an email that looks suspicious. Dump it in the trash or hit the report button, right? Gosh. Okay, so be serious and professional. So don't give strangers personal information until you can fully trust them and verify that they're who they are. Census, right? The census is calling me. I'm like, I already filled it out. I'm not giving you any information. And they're probably totally legit, but I already filled it out, so I'm good. And I want you all to invest in a paper shredder. Paper shredder. Credit card bill, taxes, even if they're receipts, put it in the shredder. Lindsay said, yeah, we shred everything. Keep doing that, sister. Keep doing it. Passwords. And I don't think I need to talk about passwords. We know about that, right? Okay. So I want you to back things up. And this goes back to making yourself whole again, right? So one of my really close associates had an issue with her hard drive and she was about to die. She was going to lose it because she needed to finish a grant proposal and she was going to lose that. And people say, hey, just put it in the cloud. You can go as far as to working with someone to get a personal cloud, right? To have a hard drive off your system that's in your house that wirelessly updates or pushes that data periodically. You don't always have to. Is that like a word like for real, Carmen? Like word? Word. Yes. Yes. You can. I have some friends, gray and white hat friends. But yeah, there's a lot of techniques. And again, that's why I think it's so important that people in the community get up on this, not just because of the need, right? But also because it pays really well, right? So you've seen these, right? Okay. So again, because I'm not representing anyone and because I don't want to personally take on the risk, do what you need to do with this situation. Call your cell phone provider, call your internet service provider, don't do anything. Offline, like not Neferteri, but just some random chick on Hop In. It's probably your cookies, right? It is probably the little pieces of data that your system is transmitting through your browser that is storing your information for convenience. You go to Amazon, you look at something, you come back a week later and it tells you, hey, don't you want to look at this again? Right? Cookie. You visit a site and you have to X out the box if you don't want to subscribe or you don't want to get to the newsletter the next time you visit it. They don't ask you that. Cookie, right? So you want to clear them. I've seen pages where it will tell you you have been breached. You're under cyber attack. Call this number or click here. Don't. You want to go into the settings of your system, clear your cookies, close your browser, clear your cookies, and open it up again, and you should be fine, because that foothold, that tethering, that malicious code or malicious site has on you will release, right? But that didn't come from me. So overall family, but children specifically, it's really important that you talk to them about positive ways about using technology. It's up to us as adults, right? Responsible adults to do that. And then communicate, adult to adult, community takes a village, right? Talk to each other about what you're experiencing or what your children are experiencing, but make sure it's somebody you know, so you're not being socially engineered. So recapping tips. I won't read the slide to you. Read too many slides already. Great information on imcybersafe.org. So a couple more things, but any questions first? My eyes are on the chat. Are there any questions before I move on? Somebody give me a no. No questions. Anyone? I'm good. Me too. All right, great. So beyond awareness, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, Snapchat. Do you know these logos? Remember, I got cash. I'll give you a Jefferson. Carmen, I got a 2 for anybody. They can name any of the 3. Java. So you get I can give you a ripped 1 or I can rip the 2 for you. You got half. Yes. And Python. Yeah, that's nice. Let me get the rip 1. I can rip a all right. So top 5 cybersecurity jobs: cyber analysts, malware reverse engineers, threat intelligence analyst, cloud security architect, and Internet of Things security. Because we're connecting everything, somebody needs to secure your Echo and your Dot and all of that, right? So this goes back to what I was saying about getting our youth specifically, but those who may be out of work or those who may be transitioning. I want you to go to cyberseek.org, where by physical location, where you are in the country, you'll see the openings, you'll see the types of jobs, you'll see the types of knowledge, skills, and abilities that one would need to do those jobs, as well as salary ranges, and then the posted jobs, cyberseek.org, right? We'll start you or anyone else on their journey. Me. info@teachersand.com. If you have any questions, my girl Carmen will tell you. I have no problem answering. So if there's anything you need, any questions you have, any thoughts you have, hit me up.